When we played on Saturday, my nephew was like, "What game should we play?" I'm like, "I don't care what we play, but I'm not keeping track of anything.
Yeah,
So let me know what we need to do and who I need to pay."
Those guys that know every game and they're keeping like
Boiling
Yes,
tomatoes.
You ever played Golden Eagle?
Definitely
No,
ditched
yeah.
Blazers.
It's like 15 minutes from Erica's dad's, and it rivals any other course up there. Golden Eagle. It's in 50 Lakes. Highly recommend. It's only $80.
I took the golf lessons after law
On a
school because I
Like
figured
Saturday at
Right.
3:30.
at some point in
It's not
my
really
career I
like
would
during
be
the day. It's
deciding
like
a golf outing. And it wasn't at my first firm, it was at my second
With,
firm, and had COVID not happened, it would have been at that firm every year that I was there, so it paid off, question mark.
but I have
But
mascara dust in my head.
my real skill is that I was the beer cart girl at Chaska Town Course for two summers, so I can ride a golf course backwards like it's again. Couldn't tell you what the holes looked like going in the right direction, but I can tell you what they look like going in the wrong one.
My father, he told.
Are they following in your path or?
No.
Okay.
They're-
Okay. I have two boys and one's following my husband's path and one's following my side of the family, so.
I've never heard her say anything about that. You know what I'm saying?
I had to redo my password.
Did anybody watch the World Cup this weekend?
Yeah, the last half of it.
Did you watch the France game or the Spain game?
The Spain game.
To the boring one.
Oh,
0-0
yeah, the
at
one
the
that
end of
Yeah, I didn't see
regulation.
the other one, yeah.
Yeah, the other one had a lot more goals.
All right, it is 5:30. I will call this work session to order on July 20th. Up first, we have got golf cart use. Look at that, more sports golf. Dave.
All right, do you have the slide? Do you have
I
the
am
ability to
pulling it
pull
up right
slides up,
there.
Brenda? Okay.
I can go ahead and start with this and then I'm gonna lean on Dave for anything technical or legal.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, Brenda, I was not reading your name, I'm very sorry. Go ahead.
that's okay. So a little background about where the city is at as far as golf cart use and UTV use. So back in 2020, the city council conducted several work session discussions regarding the licensing and operation of utility task vehicles. If you remember back those days when I viewed the videos, it was deep into COVID, so lots of masks and things like that and Zoom meetings. But following those discussions, the council approved requirements and established a permitting process for UTV use. In June of this year, the city council received a request from a community member to consider allowing golf carts for operation within the city. It prompted a discussion on whether a similar licensing and permitting framework should be developed for golf carts. Some definitions. There are 3 different types of motorized vehicles. An ATV is a motorized vehicle. I won't read through all of it, but anywhere from 3 to 6 tires on it. The dry weight is 2,000 pounds or less, and it's not defined as a UTV, and it's the width of it is 65 inches or less. A UTV has 4 wheels. It has rollover protection. It's propelled by an internal combustion engine with a piston displacement capacity of 1,200 cubic centimeters or less. I had to read that one straight through. Couldn't wing it. And it weighs less than 1,800. It has a weight of at least 1,800, but less than 2,600 pounds. And then a golf cart is defined as having 4 wheels and 4 low-pressure tires, engine displacement not exceeding 800 cubic centimeters, and a dry weight not exceeding 800 pounds. Here we have some examples. There's different makes and models, etc. But here are some different examples of an ATV versus the UTV with the rollover protection and a golf cart.
I can jump in here, Mayor and Council. So there's a state statute that talks about special vehicles, specifically the ones that we're talking about, ATVs, UTVs, motorized golf carts. And it does authorize city councils to adopt an ordinance that would allow their operation in the city on roadways that are either designated by the council, if not all of the roads under your jurisdiction. But it can really only be those streets, the streets that we have as city streets. There's no ability for these vehicles to operate on county highways or state highways. But any authorization for using those vehicles has to be done by a permit. And so that's what the city does right now with UTVs. We allow UTVs to operate on city streets through a permit. There's a few things that a permitting ordinance must include if you do it, and it must designate which roadways the vehicles are allowed on. It has to prescribe the application form and what people would have to submit in order to be able to get permission to use the vehicle on city streets. And then it has to require evidence of insurance and then any other desirable conditions of operation that the city council may have. So as I mentioned before, and I think Brenda also alluded to this, UTVs currently can operate in the city. The other types of vehicles that we're talking about, we don't allow that. I was not here back in 2020 when our initial conversation was held. It's my understanding there's some pretty fruitful and I think engaging discussion. Ultimately, the policy decision was made to do the UTVs and not to allow the other types of vehicles. And I think there's some record of those meetings and videos of those meetings. And Brenda, I think you actually did sort of a deep dive into some of that. So I don't know if you have anything to share about maybe how the council landed on that decision, but I don't know how relevant it is at this point in time because we're talking about, what the council today might want to do. So
I can take this one.
Sure.
Carver's requirements for a UTV. Insurance is required by the motorcycle insurance provisions of, I think I have a typo in there, it should say Minnesota section 65B.48 subdivision 5. So it outlines the $30,000, $60,000 protection for bodily injury and $10,000 for property damage. We charge an $80 permit fee for 3 years, and we provide them with a sticker evidencing that they have applied and received a permit through the city. State and local law also provides certain requirements for UTVs, specifically related to safety features and hours of operation. They cannot be operated in inclement weather, visibility is impaired, or any other times when there is insufficient visibility. And then to date, we've issued approximately 65 UTVs, so 45 registrations and 19 renewals.
And I would say too, that paragraph that talks about the operational requirements about inclement weather and other things, that would apply to golf carts if the city council, it's a state requirement, it's in the statute. So if the council were to have any interest in also allowing golf carts as requested, that would apply as well, in addition to any other requirements that you might want to impose.
Is that the state and local law stuff? Is that applied to motorcycles too? Or is that a separate thing from talking about the provisions above for the?
Not that I know of. That provision is in the special vehicle statute, which is not has nothing to do with motorcycles. I think the only real motorcycle crossover here is when they talk about these vehicles in the statute, they make reference to insurance that's required, and they reference the insurance that everyone is required to get if they ride a motorcycle, if they have a motorcycle.
Thanks. I just wasn't sure since I was in slide, I want to make sure.
Good question.
Jen from our admin services team did some great research in anticipation of questions that you may have. So I'll walk through what her research found, and then as we work through it, as we move along, if you have additional comments or questions, we can do some further research. But we did a dive into our peer cities, whether or not they allow golf carts, and then also in the interest of what our neighboring cities are doing as well, we did whether or not they allowed golf cart permits. So as you can see, most cities do allow them. For our peer cities, Waconia is the only one that does not. And then there are 2 for neighboring cities. Chanhassen and Watertown do not permit them.
And I think it's also worth noting, we didn't go this far into the research, but just because they allow them doesn't mean they allow them on every city street. A lot of cities are specific about, in this area or only on roadways that don't exceed, 30 or 35 miles per hour, for example. So the cities vary quite a bit in terms of where they allow them and under what conditions they might allow them. But I think this is just yes, they do allow them, or no, they don't. That was the intent of this
Yeah.
research.
In Chaska, I think they're only allowed in a couple specific neighborhoods. I was talking to Mayor Carver about this the other day. So.
So some of the highlights or the commonalities that for the licensing, proof of insurance, and then there's an age restriction or age requirement, I should say, 16 plus or 18 plus years of age. All of them need a slow-moving vehicle emblem, and then 8 of the 11 cities require a rear view mirror. Other common safety requirements are headlight and tail lights, brake lights, turn signals, seat belts, horn, and helmet. And here's what the chart looks like. The green is required, orange is conditional requirement, and purple is not required or not identified when we were doing our research. So as you can see, Delano is probably the most restrictive on what they require, most has the strongest requirements, but it can vary from city to city. And really, we're up to the questions part, so I'll leave this up if that's helpful to you, but Dave and I are here to answer any questions you have, or if there's additional information you'd like us to check into.
Yeah, and again, there's a lot more specificity and detail that I think it wasn't worth going into for the purposes of this initial discussion, but one, like for example, headlights, taillights, brake lights, those kinds of things. Many cities only require those if you're going to operate after dark, right? Because that's what the statute says. You can't operate between sunset and sunrise. So in hours that are where you have less light, obviously, unless you have those lights and brake lights and those kinds of things. So just because maybe there's a box on there that says a city requires headlights or brake lights, that's likely because that city also allows them to be operated after dark. Some cities don't allow operation after dark at all. So
Do we?
it's a good question. I had it up here. Let me just see.
People coming home from steamboat days, it's gonna be after dark.
Depends on when you come home.
It gets dark much earlier, remember, we're in
Yes,
September.
yeah.
It does, yep. We say a UTV may be operated only during hours that are not, between sunset and sunrise, if they have that equipment, headlights, taillights, brake lights, and lighted turn signals.
So I have some opinions on this.
Go ahead. So,
All right, so, today I think a golf cart is at least as safe a vehicle on a city street as a UTV. They're built to go on paved roads. They're built to not tear up golf courses. That's because their transmissions and differentials are designed for that. A UTV, most of them don't have a turf mode, so that means both wheels are locked. When they go around a turn, they're often hopping a little bit. If you take a turn fast, they have a higher propensity to roll over. That's not all of them, but some of them are built that way. Golf carts are all built for paved and turf use. When we think about things like seat belts and stuff like that, I don't know that it's our job to protect a driver from themselves. It's our job to protect other drivers. A Yamaha Mule doesn't have seat belts. It would meet our UTV standard. It's an open cab. They would fall out just the same as if they were in a golf cart. So from a design, height, all of those standards, you can have less safe UTVs. Golf carts are quieter. I think the requirement should be protect other drivers. I think they should have headlights, taillights. brake lights. I don't think turn signals are necessary. That's a little onerous. I don't know any manufacturer that makes those standard. You'd have to retrofit your machine in some way, but I think most users would be able to fit within the headlight, taillight, and brake light requirement. But, you know, I think this was before me. I think what derailed golf carts was a terrible accident with the former mayor. And that was a terrible accident that happened in a golf cart. Could have happened in a UTV. So from looking at it as a machine, I'm comfortable adding a golf cart as an equivalent to a UTV.
I'm gonna agree with you, Eric. I mean, I was for the UTV ordinance when it came through the last time, so, I agree with you that they should be. I don't know all the parameters. I'm not a golf cart expert, but I've ridden in a UTV many more times than I've ever ridden a golf cart, which says a lot about my golf game. There isn't one. There isn't
Or
one.
you're a walker.
Yeah, no, just there isn't one. But you brought up some points too where they are quieter. I drive a UTV around for steamboat days all weekend long, and I am tired of hearing that thing by the time I'm done. So, you know, golf carts are quieter. I don't know about all the drive things. That's a little beyond my, you know, when the wheels and when they're they're engaging. But I knew that the Greg Osterdyke, Evelyn Grimm accident was going to come up tonight. So that's an accident that happened one time 15 years ago. Accidents are terrible. Accidents happen all the time. I don't think that I want to base not having it for one accident that happened over a decade ago. I do think that we should allow them in town. I think they should be at the 30, I mean, I don't think we have any 35-mile-an-hour zones here, but 30-mile-an-hour zones or less, I think that is acceptable. If they are going to operate at night, they should have those headlights and brake lights, obviously. If not, they shouldn't be allowed on the road. I'm trying to think. I know you brought up Chaska said that there's a few different areas that they allow it. To me, that sounds a little bit like a little segregation going on. Like you can have it here.
Or buy a golf cart.
Gotcha. All right. So
Which is common, not to
Sure.
say it's
Oh,
right
yeah.
or wrong,
Yeah.
but a lot of cities that have golf
Yeah.
courses that have members that are close by, they accommodate those neighbors by saying you can ride your golf cart from your garage through your neighborhood to get to your golf course, whether
Sure.
that's good, bad, anywhere in between.
I figured with Victoria there too, they had
Could
with
be.
the golf course there. We don't have a golf course. So I mean, but for me, if it's gonna be, I'd rather have it be the entire town of Carver, city of Carver, with the restriction of the lower mile-an-hour zones. I think that's I think that's good for safety. When it comes to the turn signals, again, if you were requiring people to have these aftermarket things, I don't know that it's necessary. You can hand signal on your bike, right? So you can hand signal on your motorcycle, and that's legal. So I think we can probably hand signal on our golf cart too. So those are some of the reasons that I'm for it. I don't see a lot of negatives to it. Again, they're not gonna be whizzing down the highway, and if they are, they should probably get a ticket, right? Because that shouldn't be allowed. But otherwise, I don't. Noise-wise, again, safety-wise, what Eric said too. I mean, people ride motorcycles, right? They're taking every time you drive a car, you're taking your life into your own hand, right? So I think that there's going to be personal responsibility, and if you choose to do it, you choose to know what you're getting into, and we do that every single day when we drive something, no matter what it is. So. Again, I think that the accident many years ago was a terrible, terrible thing, but I don't want to base going forward on one single accident, or nobody would be driving cars anymore either, so.
I support golf carts. Thank you, Eric, for kind of explaining more than I would have thought of. But also though, like importantly though, it points out the three things that for me would be important is the headlights, tail lights, and brake lights, and then that the golf carts are equipped with them, and that if somebody's using them in between sunset and sunrise, that they turn them on. Those are the things I would want to see in an ordinance. I like the structure we have for the permit lasting 3 years. I don't know enough on, it's $80 seems fair, but I realize we probably need to factor that more into like how much does it cost us to process, so, and I would think it would be the same.
I think that's went up since we actually did. I think we've
Yeah.
included some inflation in that since it first
So,
came out.
I think there's a lot of things we could mirror from the work that we did previously.
I agree with everything that's been said. I don't see any problems with expanding it. I like having it limited to our 30 or less streets. There isn't any problems crossing from one side of this town to the other.
No, there's a provision that says you can.
Go through the
Yeah,
intersection.
it says the operator, if they're permitted, may cross any street or highway intersecting designated roadways.
Okay,
If
so
you
we're not
have to
gonna
cross,
cut off half the city
Right.
because our entire city is on a county road.
They would be
Okay.
allowed to do that.
My other thing would be, Brent, do you think the city is ready for being able to really push that you can't do this on the trails? Because I anticipate that might be similar with e-motos and things like that people might sneak into trail usage as opposed to just street usage.
You could be very specific about that in the ordinance, similar to UTVs can't use the trails or
Yeah.
sidewalks, etc.
I think that's so it would be prepared so that we would be prepared, the ordinance would be written in such a way that that portion of it could be easily enforced by the sheriff's department.
You would, just as a comment, it's probably not top of mind for any of us, but the new Summerfield development couldn't access the rest of the community without using Jonathan Carver Parkway, so nothing we need to figure out today, but it is probably an issue that we'd have to think about.
Let's cross that bridge 10 years from now.
Well, I think if we're to do a 30-mile-an-hour limit, the bluffs could also not get anywhere other than the bluffs, right? Cause
Yeah,
isn't Main Street west?
So can we rate the
Not necessarily
shortest
to get out of
route, like the shortest route within the city limits? I mean, they used to do that for snowmobiles and stuff, like you can take them, but you have to use the most direct route to get to the 30-mile-an-hour zone or whatever it is.
It's a little difficult to enforce
We don't have
probably.
minimum speed limits, do we?
No.
So why is it an issue to be going
Cause if we
30 on
said
40?
it's allowed on 30-mile-an-hour streets, then they couldn't take Main Street.
Like you couldn't get from, there's no route for you to get from the bluffs
Yeah.
out of the bluffs on a golf cart if we say it has to be a 30-mile-an-hour road. Because Main Street's 40 miles an hour as it passes the bluffs.
Oh, well, okay,
you
that's
can't-
not how I was thinking about it. You can't exceed 30 miles an hour in your vehicle.
No, what we were saying is that you are only allowed to drive on roads that are 30 miles per hour or less.
Right.
Or less.
The
Okay.
bluffs, and so it doesn't have
Well,
to be.
that's
that was
me
just
not
a topic.
understanding the current ordinance.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay,
it doesn't
I got
have
it.
to be.
So just something to think about, cause when I saw like your gears turning, I thought you were thinking about the bluffs, but also Summergate. And, well, yeah, that's probably it. All the northwestern developments can zip over on Monroe Drive and cut through Spring Creek Drive. So I really liked what you said about making this safe for everybody else. Like, I think it would defeat the purpose if we demanded everything that doesn't come standard on a golf cart. So if we say you need a seatbelt and a helmet and, you know, like a horn that probably doesn't come in really any golf cart, I think that's essentially saying golf carts aren't allowed. So I do, however, proof of insurance, 16 plus, slow moving emblem. I want to see headlights, tail lights. I would love to see turn signals. You made that sound like that's an unrealistic expectation, but I'm just trying to think of like, if I'm driving, how I'm gonna know where that's going. And I also, I just identified it as an issue, but I would like to see them only on 30-mile-an-hour streets, because with it being a slower moving vehicle, they definitely don't belong on JCP. And the speed limit on Main Street West is also the same as on JCP, and I don't love the idea of coming up hot on a golf cart.
Main
on
Street
those
West
streets.
is 40, JCP is 50 and 55.
We can't include JCP regardless.
Yeah.
I realize that, I'm
Street.
saying she just.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I was wrong.
Yeah,
So
we're talking about the speed limit.
either way,
Yeah.
30 miles an hour.
Can we,
is where
can we exempt Main Street then?
Yes,
I
it's
mean-
not a city, we can't allow it on
Oh, no.
our state.
I don't see why we can do anything we want.
I know,
But-
I'm thinking about like what, for safety reasons, if I would be okay including Main Street.
I would be okay with including Main Street.
I feel like I would be okay with including Main Street, because I feel like there's enough room on the shoulder.
There is not. For a golf cart, there's not a trail there, there's
It's a drop off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's, I mean, technically you have a sidewalk next to this, that's not really the side of the road either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't just, you're not gonna whip up on the curb. I would be happy to start off, things can always change later, to start off with the 30-mile-an-hour zone with the exception of Main Street. That people can still come down Main Street.
Here's an
I think
idea.
there's enough sight for me, because that road is so straight. I mean, you have some little curves, but that
Here's an
road is
idea.
straight enough.
What if we allowed them to go on the trail
No,
adjacent to
absolutely not.
JCP by Community Park?
I don't like that either.
Would the council be open to just letting staff take a first crack at it, and then you can kind of.
Yeah, we don't have
Yep.
to write
Yeah.
ordinance
Yeah.
tonight, okay.
But you understand, but yeah,
Yep.
our concerns have been made.
But I think we do have to come to something about Main Street though, so
Yeah.
I'm good with that,
Because we don't want to
Eric's
isolate
good with
cart
that,
paths.
right? Having Main Street be included.
I'd like to see what
Sorry,
staff
I
comes
thought
up
you
with.
said that, sorry.
I'd like to see what staff comes up with.
Well, we're the ones who are telling staff what they should be coming up
Yeah.
with, so I think that's a big sticking
Okay, let's give
point.
Erica's chance.
Right.
I'm thinking through that. So here's the thing. I didn't, and shame on me. I thought the 40-mile-an-hour limit, 30 miles is the limit on the speed of the vehicle, not the road. Because you're right, my neighborhood is precluded then from being able to exit the neighborhood and come to Steamboat Days, which people do. So I have to think about that. The Main Street in Carver, if we're encouraging the use of these vehicles to access downtown and the businesses, and, load your kids up in these machines and get them down to the ice cream store, I kind of want to find a carve out for that. I know that might not be, I want to hear what city staff has to say about it, but I'm open to that for that reason. I'm trying to encourage people to bring their families down on these machines. If we think it's going to be a safety risk and not tenable, tell me.
Yeah, so we, asked the city attorney to connect, 'cause some of these, even though it's in city limits, so like Jonathan Carver Parkway is subject to county and
Yeah.
state law, so even Overlook Drive, there's not a way for them to get to Main Street without going on Jonathan Carver Parkway. And Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, but even if the city said it's okay, that doesn't necessarily mean the county and the state have to agree it's okay, and so you're somewhat prohibited by that. And
It's,
then in
it's
that,
only roads under our jurisdiction that we have the right to allow this on. So right now, I mean, the UTV section says you can operate it on streets and roadways within the city. That wouldn't include county highways and that's the county's road jurisdiction. They're the road jurisdiction.
Yeah, I agree with Christie, let's set Summerfield aside for right now and even Overlook for the time being and focus on
Sure.
the non-connected by JCP
sure.
areas of town.
And then we'll want to run our draft and our internal process by the sheriff's office if there's things that we see or have experienced in other communities, and because there's going to be, whether it's JCP or even frankly the north side of Spring Creek Drive is in the city of Chaska, so if you had somebody in Meadows,
That's right.
going westbound on Spring Creek Drive, the Chaska PD could pull them over for a golf cart that's not allowed in their city limits. So some of those nuances we're gonna have to work through and kind of figure out how we're gonna manage that. But I think we've got
I'm
like
only
the,
smirking, because I have never seen a Chaska cop on the road unless there's been a call, so
but
that's either hasn't been,
they're adding like
Yeah.
80 to
There's
100
I know.
homes there, so there's gonna be activity there, and so but I think we have the nuts and bolts of, you want an ordinance that would allow it, and the details of it will present some options, and the council can debate those policy initiatives.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and again, this doesn't necessarily need to dictate how you make your policy decisions, but I think the request was made by somebody who was interested in getting from down Main Street, right, to some parks or something, I can't remember.
No, it was, I think they're
Yeah.
Mount Hope actually.
Oh, it was, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
No, never mind.
Not that we're writing an ordinance specifically for that.
For sure,
No.
no, but a lot of times that's a consideration, I
Yeah.
get it.
Okay, I think we're good on golf carts. Up next, we've got bond rating strategy and strategic plan initiative. Tschudi.
All right, thank you.
Probably not as exciting as the golf cart.
Please, bond.
Don't
Come on,
sell
we're looking forward to this all day.
short.
All day.
Wow. My day's been exciting too.
Sorry to hear that.
All right, well, it's already been 3 years since we have finalized the strategic action plan. And I'm not sure if you remember, but one of the action plan was to improve the bond rating from AA to AA plus by 2025. We did issue debt in 2024 and we were able to hold our bond rating stable, and we haven't issued any debt since. And so therefore we didn't reach that strategic plan goal by 2025. It just, things didn't line up in the way we wanted them to. But we are making proactive efforts to enhance our bond rating for the next big bond year, which would be next year. So there's many things that we're starting to do in order to try to increase that bond rating. And we learned about some of those on our last bond rating call, as well as through Northland Securities, who's been helping us along the way. So what does a bond rating agency look for when you're on those calls? They look for both qualitative and quantitative data to gauge municipalities' likelihood of defaulting on its debt. So not only it's not only the numbers, but it's like, what is the city doing as a whole? You know, what's happening in the city? How is it growing, and how does it compare to other cities of that same size? So I have kind of 6 different things that I'll talk about and how we're going to be doing this in different areas of emphasis. So the first one is to strengthen the financial management practices. So meet the stated reserve balances. So we talk a lot about that general fund balance reserve, and how during our long-term financial planning, we show that general fund balance and how we need to have 40%. And a couple years ago, we weren't hitting that number, and we have been hitting that number. So that's what that talks about. And then also in the enterprise funds, the utility billing or utility funds, there's also goals that we need to hit there too. We talk about 6 months of operating expenses, and then your bond payments for the following years, and different things like that. And then we want to adopt and update the long-term financial plan. We've been doing that since I've been here and before that. And then timely and transparent reporting. So that I'm talking about the audit and monthly finance reports. So I do the monthly finance reports once a month. And so if there's ever any sort of reports in there that you want to see different or more information, I'm completely open to that. But they do look to make sure that we're doing that. The rating agencies go in and they look to see what I'm showing council and the public. So control expenditures and liabilities. So managing operating costs and conservative revenue and expenditures in alignment with the long-term financial plan. So are we being conservative with what we're budgeting, and are we meeting those goals? And then is it lining up with what we're saying that we're going to do? And then implement efficiency measures. So maintenance contracts. This is something that we've done the last couple of years too. So to try to prevent things from breaking down, we're implementing more maintenance contracts, like on generators, and having somebody come out and inspect roofs, so that we're not repairing and having these large bills. And then street maintenance. We've really taken a really strong approach on street maintenance since in the last 5 or 6 years, because street maintenance is easier to do in the beginning than to do a whole reclamation. That's going to cost a lot more money. So, and then technology. Just technology to me equals efficiency. I just know that some of the programs that we've implemented in the last 5 years have created so much efficiency in like daily work, and then just in the data that we get from that technology as well. Review and strengthen policies. This is something I've really been able to focus on a lot this summer, and it's amazing how quickly your policies can age and you can outgrow them as a city. So some of the important policies on the finance side are debt management, investment, internal control, cybersecurity, and business subsidy. The reason cybersecurity is in red is because it's very important and I'm working on it right now. So it's not done. So I just wanted to point that one out. And then we want to review the policies annually and update them if needed. Like I said, they get outdated very quickly. I mean, it could be a statute or just something that we change here internally, and we want to make sure that we memorialize that in our policy. And then not only that, but confirm that the staff is following policies. A policy is only as good as if we're following it. We can write them all day long, but if we're not following them, what good are they? So, and if the staff doesn't know anything about them, so. And then consistent leadership and clear decision making. So what we're doing, the work that you do here every other week is showing that you're planning ahead for the city. So it's strong council discussion and work sessions. And so they'll see the topics that you're talking about. How are you planning? You know, what kind of discussions are you having for the city, for the growth, for planning? So that shows that you're making these decisions together as a group. And then adopting rates that are consistent with the long-term financial plan. So not only tax rates, but also utility rates. So those are very important, and we do, you know, we'll be bringing forward proposed rates and then going back if we need to, and adjusting those based on feedback from the council. So, and then the last two are strong capital improvement plan. And so on this plan, and these are the plans that we came and presented separately to you. So we had the streets and the infrastructure and facilities and different things. So we need it to show the funding, the priority, and the timing. Otherwise, if you just say, here's our plan for the next 10 years and what we think it's going to cost, that doesn't really mean anything unless we're telling you why we need it, when we need it, and how bad we need it, and how much it's going to cost. And then not only that, but we need to update it, because as you've seen in the past few years, things change and our plans change very quickly. Sometimes we'll like finalize the plan, and then all of a sudden somebody will come in, you know, maybe a business will come in, and then all of a sudden we have an idea of something that we want to do differently, or we push something off because we don't need it. But we need to be updating that, because then it would change our rates potentially in the future. And that's something that the rating agencies like to see too, that we are taking those things into consideration. And so that capital improvement plan needs to be shown as the input to that long-term financial plan. So, and then promote economic growth. So invest in infrastructure. So the CIP shows investment in the community. This is all that fun underground stuff that we don't think is fun or pretty, but we need to do it to show that we're investing. I know what Courtney calls it, but I love when she says that.
You can say it. Do you want me to say it?
Yeah.
It's not sexy investment.
Yes. Yes. I love when she says that, but we need to do it to show that we're investing in our community and we're growing. So, and then development, retention of commercial and industrial businesses to diversify tax base. We can't just have homes. You know, we want commercial and industrial businesses to come in. We want to support them, help them. What do you need? What do you need from us? Just show that we are welcoming community for all different types of businesses to come in and develop. And then encourage diverse industry through land use planning and incentives. So that's the business subsidy policy. And then just showing that we're always planning for different types of growth. So, so we're really hoping that with all of these different strategic priorities, we will increase our bond rating. If not that, just hold steady for 2027. We are really going to be trying hard. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I'm really happy to see the focus on the AA plus. We've been talking about this for years, and we're going to have big bonds coming up. I think it'll really matter. And, you know, it's a little bit of a point of pride too, just in the work that city staff does around all of this. And I've seen, you know, I've been around just for one term. I've seen a huge change and shift in as you said, the long-term planning strategy around this. You know, that's one of those things we can hang our hat on that we're a AA city, but a AA plus. I think we'll get there. If there's something that council needs to do that we aren't doing, I also want to know that. If there's some direction or something that pushes us over the edge, and maybe that's your cybersecurity effort, right? Maybe we need to take these extra steps to make sure that we're not a target or we don't find ourselves under threat, somebody holding us hostage. You tell us what that need is, if that gets us closer as well.
I have a question. So, when this says the next anticipated bond rating review is in 2027. So we're about to be going out for some more. Is that going to hurt us after the fact? So let's say we go out for some of these bonds, we're at the AA or AA plus, and then we get these bonds. Is that gonna push us down because we're levying too much debt now?
When you say getting more, when is more?
Getting more.
I think what she's saying is we're going to be increasing the level of debt that we have in 2027. So say we take on, $25 million of debt in 2027. Now we have a huge debt per cap, like we take that like debt per capita, say.
The
ratio.
mayor can co-sign on that, right?
Well, when the city elects to go out for that bond sale, the bond rating is done as a part of that issuance, so they'll know about it. Like that's whatever the number is, let's say it's X, they'll say, okay, you're wanting to borrow X, and then here are all the conditions. Just actually frankly going through this strategy session will be helpful in getting that bond rating. I would say like the next bond rating after 2027, it'll depend on what the criteria is, like how much you're bonding for, what the city's done with this tax base, what it's being used for, a bunch of different factors. So I'd hate to speculate. In the past, whether it's Northland or Abdo or any of our financial folks have said it's gonna, as a growing city, there's an expected amount of new debt, and it's not out of line with other growing communities, but beyond that, I'd be hesitant to say how it may not impact our overall rating.
Can I follow up on that question? Because I had a similar question. So there's not two separate times. If when we go out for our next bonds, that's when we will learn where we sit in terms of bond rating.
Correct.
So it's just one event.
Correct.
Okay, thanks. Thank you. Thank you for interpreting what I was trying to get out. Thanks for adding on. Yeah, appreciate it.
I would add, just as an aside, a huge thing going through these ratings is the reporting, and just the shout out to Lynn. I think you probably noticed, as I have, that over the last couple of years, the monthly reporting for the finance report has evolved tremendously from where it was, not as a representation of anything else, but Lynn's work and dedication to kind of showing that in a more comprehensive and I would say user-friendly manner. So.
Good. Thank you. All right, up next we've got the strategic plan update. Mr. Mareck.
Need a little slack.
I think we're caught Courtney.
Yeah, sorry. Way to go.
This is my battery report.
It's caught my charging port.
No. You can go back in.
Great. So speaking of strategic planning, giving a quarterly report, and I think a point of pride for our organization and the council is that you continue to talk about these and have discussions about them. It's not once every other year exercise. And so in that same spirit, just kind of highlighting for you the main initiatives related to financial strength, improved operations, responsible development, stable infrastructure systems, and focused communications. And so as we're kind of sunsetting that and kind of finishing up those last items, also an opportunity to think about what's next. And I know that's not until probably February or March of next year, but the realities of what the community is dealing with today and in the future have a lot of these same pieces that we talked about in those initiatives. And so what are the next steps, but also kind of a feeling of security that the things that you've identified have been worked on. And so, as you can see, quite a bit of work. One of our big pushes internally is we want to wrap up these items, if at all possible, by year's end. And so there's a couple of items that have taken longer just because of the level of detail, but we don't want to have any outstanding items by the time we get to the next strategic planning session. So just highlighting a couple of the ones that you've all been participating with, that joint session with the Council and Planning Commission, looking at the landing and the comprehensive plan. On July 6th, you have the work session strategy that Aaron Smith discussed and facilitated. Brenda Good spent a lot of time with her team launching the mobile app. A couple of things that have been kind of behind the scenes is drafting of our emergency operations plan and then scheduling of our tabletop emergency training exercise. So as you remember, and maybe for those that are watching, we have 2 very large binders from the county on how to navigate that. And so the intention of that was to develop kind of a very hyper-local emergency operations plan that's, anywhere from maybe 5 to 10 pages that not only is readily accessible to staff, but somebody in the community could look at and say, okay, this is how they're going to be handling these events or incidents. And this is what I should expect, but also as decision makers and policy developers as the council, it should give you a line of sight to how we're prepared and perhaps whether it's in terms of investment, resource collaboration, or policy development ideas, opportunities and challenges related to that topic. Lynn and I just met again today on drafting that 5-year compensation plan. If you remember, we got the help of Abdo, and I've been working closely with Chief Walsh on developing that, and so we're looking to hopefully roll that out probably the next 60 days for council comment and review. We talked about the bond strategy tonight, and we had our first of a couple of sessions on public safety goals. Had a great conversation with Sergeant Baker as a follow-up, and have developed a framework that I think hits a lot of the notes, or hopefully most, or if not all of the notes that the council discussed on July 6th. And so we're going through kind of the draft review of that process. And then we'd like to kind of give you our first best swing on August 3rd. Not expecting that it's going to hit all the notes that you wanted to, but it's part of like the process of like, okay, this is what we think we heard in one simple 2-page document. And then you can give us the feedback that you think right sizes it for how you want public safety goals to be documented, memorialized, etc. And then finally shared, not just with the sheriff's office, but with the community. And in a lot of ways, it really helps create shared expectations. We spend a lot of time talking about communications and information flow, and talking to like colleagues and other law enforcement agencies, and just some offline conversations with other members of the council. I think there is a path to create some maybe more mutual expectations and clarity around those topics, and I think the combination of maybe some past liaisons and past communication methods, we kind of got, I think, a little bit twisted up. And I think for Sergeant Baker, not my words, not his, but I think that nuance was a little bit overwhelming. And so I think we had a chance to kind of step back from that and look at kind of the heart and soul of what the council wants to accomplish and how we want to communicate with residents. So I'm excited to get your feedback when that comes back for August. So the entire report is in your packet. We highlighted the kind of the recent items, but happy to go over any questions that you have or perspectives that you'd like to share with others.
Any questions or perspectives?
Brent, for number 2, one of the things is satisfied employees. When was the last time we did the employee survey?
So we do that once every 2 years.
Every 2
so
years.
We're lined up for later this year to do one.
Okay.
question on the emergency management plan. And, you know, I trust city staff is well versed on this, and you know, we have queries from the media. When we were in Rochester, I met with somebody at a booth, and their business is preparing city staff and city councils to handle those kind of events, a little bit of media training. Have we considered bringing somebody in to do that for us? Not that, you know, we're expecting to be pinned down, and but that's the point. You're not expecting it, so you're not necessarily prepared.
We actually have hired, his name was, or the company's name is Beacon Safety Services.
Okay.
And Rick Larkin has been facilitating that work with Andrew Simmons and Chief Walsh, kind of co-leading that, and he has tremendous experience. Actually, like part of like a little bit of the delay is he was advising the city of Minneapolis during Metro Surge and how to like deal with that emergency and communicate, get all their teams together. So he has probably way more experience than probably our application. So to your point, I feel like we're well served and we'll get that training. We want to take some steps to, once we have like the template, we want to integrate the council into that piece, so you don't feel like you're just a bystander in it, that you understand what we believe your role would be in an incident and how to navigate that, etc. So, point well taken.
Eric, do you remember the name of the vendor?
I have their information.
Curious.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping to bring this in front of us and remind us. I know that was 2 years ago, and it's just good to always get the progress updates. Thank you. All right.
I have one question on the slides.
Sure.
For the PowerPoint. Today how we discussed the strategy to increase bond rating. So I kind of want to go back to what Mrs. Tschudi shared, where what are you or any of the staff like hearing things that maybe we can do to, you had in the slide about like, it was the last one you ended on with diversifying tax base. Like I know this isn't an example because it's so minor, but I know in April we did within our own the loan program for downtown restoration. Like, are you the EDA? Thank you. Is there anything that's probably a much larger scale, or that like I'm thinking TIF or things that
with
we
the bond the rating agencies.
Oh, and sorry, one more thing. And like Councilmember Pershman mentioned, like maybe it's cybersecurity, but like, do we know what levers might be worth focusing on?
I'll answer
what I should have asked.
First part. So like the rating agencies are less concerned, really not even concerned, I would say, with any like business development programs the city has. That, they want signs of a well-run organization. So that's reporting, policies that are followed, effective planning, so budget processes, strategic plan, and then I would say on the business side, they'd like to hear about how your community is growing, but there's like a variable of, are you growing? Have you planned for that growth? Can you accommodate it? Like, so we talked about staffing plans, capital plans, monthly reporting to the council, increasing our reliance on cash is a big one for them. That was a great policy choice from the council. But, they don't necessarily share, so it's basically like a credit report for cities is this rating, but we're not a party to or see like all the mechanics of how they rate it. And so typically they'll have two people on the line, and they ask some pretty standard questions that they ask in advance, and we prepare answers, and then it's basically an interview for about an hour. But then they have a rating committee, and the two people that were on the line make a presentation, as I understand it, to this rating committee. And I'm sure they have a bunch of data and metrics that, you know, help them determine what that is. But it would be wild speculation for me to say, like, you know, if we did these 1, 2, or 3 things, part of it might be the person, the committee, the market environment at the time,
Have they had lunch yet?
etc. Right. I don't know, anything to add on that, Lynn?
I would say I've only had two rating calls in my career. I would say that probably the last one, because you get some of the questions, or Northland Securities tries to kind of prepare you a little bit ahead of time. And then if you can't answer the question fully, they'll allow you to kind of answer it afterward. And Northland Securities will provide an answer to them after. And I do feel like there were a little bit more technical questions as far as like information technology, like how often do you back up your information and different things like that. So I think for me, that's why I'm kind of focusing on the cybersecurity, and just with all of the fraud and different things like that, I really want to make sure that I'm well prepared in that area, as well as just updating our debt management policy, because that one was, I think, 2012 when that one was updated, you know, so just making sure that a lot of those things are up to date with what we're actually doing. Yeah.
And we also try to be like really good students, if you will. So like when they send those questions out, we get the responses like as comprehensive as possible with attachments, and love to hear well, you've made it so easy for us. This won't last very long as far as an interview goes.
Short.
We're trying to like make up with hustle and initiative with maybe something that they're concerned with, but that's kind of whatever we can do to kind of move the ball forward.
Okay, any additional questions or comments about the strategic plan update? Thank you. City manager's report.
Yeah, a couple of things. So last week had a resident come in, and we ended up doing kind of a site visit at Creekside Park, and he had mentioned concern about ricochets coming off the targets at Riverside, and wanted a fence to go up. And you know, fences has been kind of like a hot topic internally lately, and so my initial reaction to him was like, and we haven't had any incidents, those are reported incidences, but I told him my inclination was I'd rather move the targets than have the city spend $10,000 to $15,000 maybe dollars on a fence. And so when I connected at first with the mayor about it, she had somebody to reach out, and then Andrew and I just kind of walked and talked a little bit about that. And so unless the council has any reservation, Andrew has a kind of conceptual plan to move the archery targets back down to Riverside Park. Now, understanding that we lost targets during the last flood. Obviously, there, as probably most of you know, there's times where those targets can be out of commission, whether it's for flood or probably in the next few years with the certified levy project. But wanted to get that on the council's radar, and before we made any announcements, check in to make sure you're okay with that relocation.
I wanted to comment with this because the last time we had talked, when they moved to Creekside Park while Riverside was going under as staging, we had not said that Creekside Park was where they were going to stay. My impression from all of our conversations is that they were going back to Riverside Park. I see Lori's nodding along. So for them to go back to Riverside Park is by all means fine with me, because to me that was the expectation that we already had. And for the flooding, I think, we stacked them behind the PU building before, but I'm sure we can find a place for them when it floods. And we've had to do it before, and if you get down there, if you know the water's coming and you remove them, they don't float away before the water gets there. And that usually solves that problem. So I've done this before.
Just think if there's so much less work with the levy project that they can focus on, you know, some of those other things before.
Yeah, I mean, that was,
or anything like that would be crazy.
That was
Sure,
a
Paul
result
appreciate
of the emergency-ness and putting that levy together. So I know you're not saying that, but they just had other things, and that became a last priority.
What's the nature of the ricochet that's putting people at risk?
I'm not gonna speak to like my own editorial position on it. I would say the resident and maybe others would say that if you don't hit the target, if it hits the wood, it could ricochet and go into the large dog park play area.
I'd also like to mention that if I'm correct on this, those lot lines come down behind the park. People could technically be on their property. If I'm wrong with that, I thought those lot lines came back down more to the edge of the park. You could technically be doing something on your property and have people shooting arrows while you're there.
I'm asking just because I actually heard a couple people say they've used it for the first time. So, yeah,
Since it's visible.
Yeah. At one point, we had leagues down there at Riverside for that.
Okay.
As an archer myself, or I used to go a little more than I am now. But anyways, well,
You're a golfer, now you're an archer.
No, I said I'm not a golfer. I am absolutely not a golfer. That's terrible. It made me nervous actually to have these here. Riverside is much because you've got the marsh behind you, so the likelihood of having any issues down there is pretty good. I can get groupie like you don't even know.
Can't wait to see that.
And then, I don't hear any objections. So we did get a few notes about the fencing in the new Creekside Park with the dog play areas. The contractor was out last week and made those corrections, and they removed the buy rolls, so that should be taken care of. We're working on a draft insert with Nicole Krause at Bolton and Mink for the certified levy project. So kind of 2 pages on some of the renderings, schedule, upcoming process, some funding pieces. So once that's prepared, we'll get that out to the council, but expect that to go in August. And some really great news, the Mount Hope Road project started. And residents in that construction zone have been notified. We've had quite a few reach outs on social media disregarding access, and you can continue to go to the cemetery, Lions Park, neighbors can get to their homes, etc. Fundamentally, the only thing that's being excluded is if, like for example, if like after this meeting I want to go home, like I shouldn't be going all the way through Mount Hope Road to get to Spring Creek. I should be going up Jonathan Carver Parkway. So it's the local neighborhood traffic is welcome and encouraged to use that. There will be times where it gets uncomfortable in there when you have the reclaimer or they're maybe pouring new curb, etc. And in kind of going through there today just to kind of observe the construction, you gotta really slow down. There's there's construction activity throughout that zone, and so we've also connected with the sheriff's office just to pay special attention. But I think the message is and will continue to be to like neighborhoods and people visiting the cemetery and Lions Park that they can continue to do so. And then I was just gonna throw it over to Lynn. Had incident come up that we found out about today related to our utility billing accounts.
So we switched over to our new payment processor, BSNA Payments. We did send out last week an email to anyone who was on auto pay, who had their account set up for auto pay through Invoice Cloud, and just saying that they would need to set up a new payment account through the BSNA Payments. What we weren't clear about is that their payment would still go through Invoice Cloud for this July 20th payment. So that was bad on us, and we should have sought clarity through Invoice Cloud and BSNA Payments. And so we have about 136 people who went in and set up automatic payment through BSNA Payments, and we're still enrolled in Invoice Cloud auto pay. So they have payments coming out of both. So I've identified those people and I've refunded almost all of them, so.
How long were the refunds taking?
They'll take probably a day or two. Go ahead.
No, I was sorry if you're.
And I've talked to, I'm trying to respond and reach out to anybody who's emailed directly to the utility billing, and I've gotten a really good response from most people, all but one.
So whether they paid on the 1st or yesterday, they're just getting refunded now though.
Nope, it's mostly people who paid on the 17th and then again on the 20th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that hasn't been hanging out there for weeks and
No,
weeks and weeks. Okay.
no,
That was kind of my question. Were
Yeah.
these payments just on the 20th?
they
when
were
the bills
just from the
due?
20th,
Okay,
so that's
which
why
is
I'm trying to
today.
get them back today.
Okay,
So I'm trying to get them done before I leave here today.
thank you.
That's all I have.
All right, any council requests?
I have one. I know at a council meeting and feels like a few months ago, we had talked about the cell phone policy for staff or council members. And that would be coming through from staff. Do you have an idea when that'll be ready for us? to
I
hear?
think, let me pull that up. I have it on the council calendar. It is, I'll pull it up. It's in like a month or so. Cell phone policy, August 3rd.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Next meeting. All right,
I do.
go ahead.
Just some awareness here. I had a resident come to me with a concern about a business being run out of their home. And this is a little atypical. We don't typically regulate that. You can have a daycare and you can have a hair salon, and that doesn't really impact the people around you. This specifically is for a lawn care company. And this is more than just trailers and more than just vehicles in front of the house. This is kind of the constant running of public works grade equipment, getting on and off trailers, being serviced. So it got my attention. I looked into this a little bit. I've socialized it with Aaron Smith, and other cities have specific carve-outs for this to address lawn care companies, and I'm guessing that is the reason. I don't know, but I've asked to check into that and if it's something that we should take a look at. Now, on the other side of this, we have a new parking ordinance that says if you've got something parked out in front of your house you shouldn't have, the enforcement mechanism is to call the sheriff. So I have reinforced that that's an action that this person or whomever is concerned should do. So at the very least, there's some documentation that this is going on, it's been addressed, and whomever is doing this has been advised. There's a city ordinance that would disallow that. But I don't know that it disallows, again, public works grade machinery being run in front of the house on a regular basis. So you know, I've asked for that to be checked into, and that maybe we bring that then to a discussion here if we should look at that ordinance.
Can I ask you a couple questions about that?
You can.
So when they say that, like, that's ongoing, are they just unloading and reloading? So it's a time period of that, or why does this seem like, I'm not?
Because it goes on throughout the day. It isn't just morning or evening. I think it also may be running up equipment to check in operation. You know, so we all mow our lawn, and well, most of us do, and there's a gas engine, and we accept that, but we probably didn't sign up to move into somebody who's got that level of machinery running regularly. The parking ordinance, if it was enforced, might regulate that, but I think it's worth at least looking into why other cities have specific call-outs, and that's my guess. Is it's because it goes beyond just parking a trailer in front of the house that shouldn't be there. And this is excessive. I've looked at pictures, I've stopped by myself. It's more than we would sign up for to have next to our house. So I'm gonna ask that we look into this further. But I'm starting with a review of other cities' ordinance that specifically call it out.
Is there a chance they're violating the ordinance for noise? Like, is there certain, too early, too late?
I don't know. I don't know
Day?
that city machinery violates a noise ordinance. But we also don't have public works surrounded by a bunch of houses.
Well, and I think that any like city projects are excluded from like what time of day?
There's a home occupation section in our zoning ordinance that allows home occupations, which are, you know, people that are conducting businesses out of their homes, but there's a lot of limitations on, you know, noise, nothing that isn't incidental to living in a home. I mean, things like someone having an office and running a business out of their home, you can't generate more traffic. And so that to me would sound, I mean, what you're describing sounds like something that goes beyond what would be okay under our zoning ordinance. Just, but I
Right.
need to know more details.
The other issue though is the business may not be run out of the home. It's just that happens to be the focal point of where all the machinery and equipment and trucks and trailers are.
But that's part of, I mean, if you run a business, you're supposed to have somewhere to store your equipment and run your equipment, and it isn't supposed to be your home, right?
There
You
have
should have
been
a-
sawhorses that block the street off.
Right.
You know, they're moved, but, and again, we have a parking ordinance now, we change that. And there has to be, you gotta call, you gotta have the sheriff come out, it's unpleasant, but that's part of the process in the regulation. I just wanna look at, why, again, why other cities tackled it the way they did, specifically calling it out. I'd be upset if it was next to me, and man, I am the king of you can't choose your neighbors, so.
So I think the way we generally do this is
Yep.
we need a majority to say, yep, this is something we want to look into and move forward. You kind of made it sound like you've given direction to move forward. on
Well, if we
that.
can do that now, that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
I just
wanna be
wanted
clear on where
awareness
we're
that
at in the
I've
process.
asked Aaron to look into this.
Okay, just so that I'm clear, I just have a question. You mentioned the parking ordinance.
Yep.
And I don't know if I'm putting one and one together correctly, but it sounds like if we enforce the parking ordinance, this could be a non-issue. My question is like that, and like, has this resident called the sheriff's department to report this so that we can enforce the parking ordinance?
So I have encouraged the resident and any other affected residents by way of that one to utilize that. Have awareness of the parking ordinance. We can't do it for you. This is for you to initiate, and it bolsters your case if there's repeated offenses. What I don't know that it's going to deal with though is that deals with a trailer that's parked there too long or a truck that's parked there too long. If you've got heavy equipment running constantly throughout the day, that's more than a daycare or a
Yeah.
hair salon.
For sure, but you're kind of insinuating that no calls have been made, so I feel like that's step.
I can't speak to that. I don't
Okay.
know for sure that that's the case, but I know that there's hesitancy. Nobody likes to be the neighbor that calls on your other neighbor. That's an unpleasant situation to be in. I know that the resident has reported to the city, so I'm taking that as has not reported to the sheriff. That's why I've encouraged that resident to do this, but it doesn't preclude us from having a look at that type of business running from home. So to your point, if the process is this worth taking into a work session discussion? I'd like to have it be a work session discussion. That's up to a couple more of you.
I'm happy to, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't have any concerns, but I also think I would love to get more information. I feel like step one would be calling and reporting the cars that are illegally parked. And I'm feeling like it isn't happening. Nobody likes calling in your
Yep.
neighbors, I get that, but that's the process. Maybe Christy doesn't like driving the speed limit, but that's the process.
Not
you
your
know?
golf cart,
Like-
she doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, so more information.
Well, we'll get that, I think, from Aaron. And the fact that there's precedents. Other cities specifically call this out, including Chanhassen, so neighboring city.
Well, and I think what I hear you saying is it might already be written into our
Yeah, I mean, if
This
someone
may
is
be covered
using
under a
their
broader-
business equipment at their home for the purpose of running their business, and it's generating noise and bringing in equipment that isn't, you know, typically accessory to somebody living at a house. I mean, some people have stuff, they have toys or other things. I mean, it sounds like they're running a business there, and that seems to toe the line of what our zoning ordinance would allow in a residential district. I think that's the issue. I mean, there could be a parking issue as well. That's separate, but also could be a violation. But I think there's a potential zoning issue here. You can't run businesses out of a residential zoning district at your house that under our code that are noisy, and you're bringing commercial equipment to and from and parking and storing them there. I mean, that goes beyond what city code allows.
So if
And that would be other than the parking enforcement, that's,
Yeah, and if
Yeah.
that's the case, I don't think that that's a work session issue. I think that's a Aaron writing a letter to the homeowner and,
Enforcement.
yeah.
Yeah, it's code.
if you think that we have a methodology to address it, because I would characterize the equipment as not the equipment for support and maintenance of your own home. It is for other homes.
Skid loaders and.
Well, in heavy
Larger
duty
equipment.
mowing equipment that the city would use, not,
I mean, I'd have to know a lot more
Yeah.
about what's going on to talk to Aaron about that,
Yep.
because we've dealt with some home occupation questions. but
So-
not a lot.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to looking at the new ordinance, but would you be okay if we went step one with having
Oh.
the clarification on the zoning, and then if we're not getting there, then we take a look at it, or are you like, I want this looked at?
no, if we have a methodology that addresses this, let's execute that first.
Okay,
So, this
And if
is
we
why I
don't-
brought it up.
yeah, and if we don't,
Yeah.
then I'd be happy to look, I'd be
Yeah.
always happy to look at something.
All right.
It is for Councilmember Pershman followed the right process. He connected with Aaron, and Aaron talked to me this afternoon and said, you asked what the first step was, and the first step was going to city council requests to make sure the council is on board. So we're gonna process.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was just misunderstanding when you're,
No, that's okay. I want to be a rule breaker. I guess it wasn't this time.
We know, we always watch out for you breaking the
Okay.
rules. This isn't the first time we talked about this.
If I could just ask one clarification
Yes.
question, Councilmember, and it could be multiple things, but is this more a parking issue or a storage issue?
I think
Like
it's-
what they have on the property?
I think it's a combination, and that's what's unique, and I think that's why there's a call out in other cities.
Because there's previously been some requests from residents about like what someone, I'm not specific to any neighborhood or home, but like, you know, they have a gas can or store outside, or electrical cords, buckets, etc., or a payloader parked in the driveway. And what we've told them was, we don't have regulations for what people have stored on their driveway unless it creates a nuisance. And my interpretation of maybe this is that maybe you're interested in looking at making those items nuisance worthy, or am I off on that?
I don't want to be an HOA here.
Okay.
Yeah, so somebody's unsightly gas can or hose is unsightly, but I don't see that as the city's mandate to regulate that. That's an HOA if you want to avoid that. I'm specifically talking about heavy machinery in support of a business, not your lawnmower.
And conducting those business operations on site.
Well, loading,
Some portion of
offloading, maintenance, right, that should happen at the business, not in front of a restaurant.
Storing the equipment at home,
Well,
maybe.
you know, what's the line? A hose and a gas can, unpleasant to look at. A bunch of, I don't know the name. I know less about lawnmowers than I do about side by sides.
I can help with this.
But, you know, the big heavy mowers that you stand behind, and, you know, if those are running in the street, getting on and off trailers, that's in support of a business, not your home.
Okay.
I don't, but again, I think the concern is, are we enforcing what's in somebody's yard if they decide to decorate their entrance with lions or toilets or hoses or gas cans. That's not
Well,
us.
there are cities that do regulate what's stored in, like, for example, Chanhassen, this was looked at a while ago, but like there are some more prescriptive ordinances that they have related to what, like you can't park recreational vehicles on the grass in a front setback in Chanhassen.
Or in your driveway.
Or, well, that could be. So I was just trying to kind of clarify if it's more of like the contents, the operation and parking, and maybe it's a combination of all three.
I think it's more the operation of. I don't
Okay.
want it. I really don't want a slippery slope of we're trying to regulate what the appearance of somebody's home is, because there are things like a gas can or a hose or electrical cord strewn across the driveway. That's unpleasant, but that's not the city.
Gotcha.
So what I think is gonna happen is that Aaron and Dave are gonna take a look at the ordinance. If this turns out to be something that we've already got covered, the resident will receive a letter saying that they're not following the ordinance. And if that's not the case, we'll be talking about doing something ordinance,
Yeah,
potentially a work session.
and just to be clear too, I think, and maybe Aaron has all the information, Councilmember Pershman, but I think I didn't hear specific enough information to know what we're talking about, just other than parking some equipment, and maybe she has those details, or maybe you have them, and if so, I'd encourage you to share as many details as you can, so, cause it's kind of we have to be able to apply the facts to what we have in our ordinance. In order to do that, we have to understand exactly what the.
I think I have a good handle on it, so I'll share more with Aaron.
Great, thanks.
All right, there isn't anything else. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Sarah,
I'll second.
second by Pascal. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We are adjourned.